Hi everyone, David Aragona and Mike Beer here, taking a look at the DRF Thursday race of the day, which comes pretty early in Saratoga's Thursday card. Race 3 is the Violette Stakes, going the mile and 16th distance on the outer turf course for the New York bred 3-year-olds. And there was a little rain predicted ahead of Thursday. We'll see if that comes to fruition. It doesn't feel like forecasts have mattered too much the first few days at Saratoga. The rain just keeps coming. We'll see if that changes for this second week of the meet. But Mike, only 6 runners entered in this Violette Stakes, but it feels like there's some quality in this field, though. The number 6, Smooth Breeze, if he shows up with his good effort, he's going to be a handful.
It's the logical starting off point for this race, David. You made him 7-5 on the morning line for a reason. We'll talk about it a little bit more when we get to him. This horse, so far, he's shown some real ability. One of these other horses, probably, if he shows up, they'll probably have to improve to beat him.
This is the DRF Thursday race of the day, so you can get free past performances for this race. Really easy to do. Just create a free account at DRF.com, heading over to that race of the day page, and you can access free classic, formulator, and Timeform US PPs for every single race of the day. And speaking of those Timeform US PPs, let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this Violette. And Mike, a couple of runners in this race that are likely to go forward. I'll be interested to see which ones more intend on getting to the front. The number 2, Sounds Like a Plan, did win from gate to wire when he broke his maiden last year and used that style to a narrow defeat in the Woodhaven 2-back. So I'd imagine Ricardo Santana, I should say, will be looking to go forward with him.
Yeah, I'm going to think that that's the plan for sure, David. Although when I go back and watch that race here last month during that Belmont Stakes Festival, I kind of feel like that was the plan that day too. And they just sort of got outrun to the lead in that race by Leon Blue, who's also back in this field.
Yeah, Leon Blue drawn outside of Sounds Like a Plan here. We'll see if that matters, but he was drawn outside last time too, and as you said, just went right to the front and was quicker than Sounds Like a Plan that day. We'll see if these two hook up on the front end. Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1, River of Time. A horse will be stretching out after trying 6 furlongs last time in a restricted race for New York sired horses, and he ran into a pretty good one, and Friend of the Devil, who's just the best of the New York bred turf sprinters at the moment. River of Time and the other horse coming out of the race that we'll get to in just a second were no match for him. And Mike, River of Time just kind of sat on the rail, clunked up for second, never felt like he was really a threat there. And I go back and look at his prior 2 turn races, and there's not a whole lot there that makes me want to recommend him in this spot.
That was my problem with him too. I just don't like his other races enough. And listen, he was never going to win that race last time. And as you point out, he just kind of sat on the rail the entire way. He didn't run a terrible race, and it's not easy to drop back from 8.5 furlongs to 6 furlongs on the turf. I thought he handled that well, but I just don't see the race that he's run so far that makes me want to bet him in here.
The number 2, Sounds Like a Plan, is the horse who could be going forward from his number 2 post position in here. And we'll take a look at his race 2 back in the Woodhaven when he used front running tactics and almost pulled off an upset in this Woodhaven against Open Company. Mike, I wonder if he was just getting a little tired coming off the layoff here. This was his first start in several months, and it looked like he might have this race wrapped up in mid stretch, but you could see he gets pretty leg weary in the final 8th of a mile over a turf course that did have some give to it. And I generally don't like races such as this where they all come together at the finish and it feels like the entire field was similarly talented. But we have seen some horses come back out of this race to run a little better in subsequent starts.
Yeah, I always have to remind myself that too, because I initially just did not like the Woodhaven as a race overall for all the reasons you've mentioned. But I do have to remind myself that there have been horses to come back and run okay out of that race. So I won't be too hard on it. This horse, I'm with you on that one. I thought he ran okay there, and he probably needed it off the layoff last time. He just got, again, I just thought he got outrun to the lead. I don't think they were trying something different there. I just feel like they beat him to the front. He took a run at Leon Blue around that final turn there. He was turned away in the stretch and faded again. He's good enough to win here, David. I don't know what kind of trip he's going to be able to get here, and I didn't really want to bet him back.
Yeah, that was an honest pace last time in that allowance race in Saratoga, and he just got really tired, which makes you question his finishing ability, especially at this level. The number 3, I'm Due, he was 3rd behind River of Time, who we just talked about in that New York Stallion Series race last time, and didn't save as much ground, but there was not a whole lot of closing going on in that race. He just never was a threat, finishing 3rd. He has run well in some prior races around 2 turns down at Gulfstream, Mike, but his race 2 back in the English Channel, I thought, was pretty disappointing. He just didn't really hold his form, never was getting into the race that day. And I wonder if he's starting to go in the wrong direction. And he probably needs a career best race if he's going to compete against this field.
That's how I looked at him too. Again, he's another one who was trying to turn back to sprint last time. It just didn't really work for him, but I didn't know how much of an excuse I really wanted to give him. I guess you're right in that as far as, when you're just going to compare him to the horse that finished ahead of him last time in the sprint race. Yeah, this horse is probably more likely to be effective in this race. it still wasn't enough for me, David. I know he's got some figures on his side, and he's
Yeah.
won a couple of prior turf races around 2 turns, but I don't really like this horse that much.
The number 4 Outsource was a pretty good claim by trainer Tom Morley for $30,000 back at Aqueduct, picking this horse up and clearly doing so with a plan to get him on the turf. And the plan worked to great effect as he caused an upset at 56 to 1 when he won an allowance race during that Belmont Stakes Racing Festival at Saratoga. We'll take a look at the replay of that race. And Mike, he's surely got some pace to cool us into here. He was far back early. Things started to come apart at the end, but he still puts in a pretty impressive run from far back to just barely nail Leon Blue on the wire. He's the other horse that was highlighted at the top of the stretch there, but you could see Outsource is just loving the turf as he's coming with this relentless finish.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he looked like a totally different horse with the servitude here. And yes, they went in front of him in here. This was a really solid pace for him to come after. But when you go watch the full replay, David, I don't know if you had the same experience. This horse traveled pretty well throughout the entire race, sitting off the pace. It always looked like he was going to run. He made a move around the turn, and he just kept coming through the stretch. I mean, this horse clearly took a huge step forward with the surface switch.
Yeah, it feels like his sire Honor AP is turning into a sneaky turf influence.
Yep.
Still pretty early in his sire career, but you got 56 to 1 last time on Outsource. You're gonna have to take a fraction of that here in a race where he might not get the same pace to close into. The number 5 Leon Blue, he was the horse that endured that heartbreaking defeat last time. It looked like he had put away his pace rivals. He got a challenge in mid-stretch, turned that horse away. Looked like he and Christopher Elliott were on their way to victory, and then here comes Outsource out of nowhere to nail him on the wire at that massive price. But Mike, I felt like Leon Blue ran the best race last time because, as you said, that was an honest pace. I was looking it up in Timeform US to just confirm the visual with the pace figures. He got Timeform US pace figures of 157 and 153 for the first 2 calls of that race. There were stakes later in the card where the opening half miles went in 48 and 50 for older New York breds on the turf at the same distance, and he went near low 47 to the half mile. So that all tracks. Just feels like a horse that's run really well on the turf, and that was his first time stretching out since the layoff. He might be able to move forward again.
I agree. And that was just the toughest of tough beats last time. And they rode him really aggressive there. We'll see if they decide to do that again, because I feel like when you go back to some of his races last year, they don't have to do that if they don't want to. So I don't know. There's a lot to like about this horse. He's finished second or third in all 4 of his turf starts. So he hasn't won any of them, but he's run well in all of them. I mean, this horse is good. He's a major player in here.
And then on the outside is the number 6 Smooth Breeze. And we've sang the praises of a few horses in this race, Mike, but it does feel like if Smooth Breeze shows up with his best effort, his best might just be a cut above the rest. And I think you can have confidence that he's in good form right now, because we'll take a look at his turf race 2 back where he won quite convincingly. I don't think he was facing the toughest field this day, but you still have to respect when a horse wins by 4 lengths on the turf. And you could see he just does so, with ease once he's asked to go, tipping out at the top of the stretch. The acceleration that he puts in under Flavien Prat is pretty impressive. And Mike, the fact that he came back last time and ran so well in an off the turf race just kind of gives you the impression that he's razor sharp right now.
Yeah, I noted the same thing. Just getting rained off last time and still showed up with that effort. That's a good sign for him. The race that we just watched there, the replay, he did get a perfect trip in that race, and it wasn't a super strong field, but he really ran. And it's not like that was a sort of a jump forward for him, David. But it's not like that race came out of nowhere, because this horse debuted up here as a 2-year-old, and he ran great that day. Very late to get room to run in there, but he really finished that day like a horse who had some real upside, and he's starting to show it now as a 3-year-old.
Yeah, the other thing I noted with him was he was really green as a 2-year-old, just veering around in his races at the stretch, and he seems way more professional since he's come back for the last 2 starts of his 3-year-old campaign. Well, Mike, let's go to picks for this Thursday race of the day. Where did you land in the Rick Violet?
I wasn't brave enough to go against Smooth Breeze. I know he's going to be a really short price. I like your thinking with Leon Blue on top, because I do think he's good enough to win here, but I don't think I'm going to have a lot of money in against the 6. I think he just might be too good for these horses.
Yeah, I believe that Smooth Breeze is going to be tough to beat in this race, just given the recent form and the fact that Flavien Prat's aboard. His price is probably going to be pretty short, and I think I'm going to get a better price on Leon Blue, maybe even more disparity than the 7-5 to 5-2 odds that I pegged on the morning line, because of the connections and Christopher Elliott riding Leon Blue in a stakes race. I just think he's run really well against some tough pace scenarios, particularly last time. We'll see how fast they go up front, but I believe he might be pretty close to Smooth Breeze in terms of talent. So 5-6-2-4 for me, and 6-4-5-2 for Mike in the DRF Thursday race of the day, the Rick Violet at Saratoga. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.